We're in Andre's exclusive continental restaurant, which caters to only the most discriminating clientele.
How's the food, sweetheart?
Rotten.
That's nice.
Where's the stuff?
The stuff is here now. Great new day sensation. Light and free now. Gives you elevation. Enough is never enough. Enough is never enough of the stuff.
The stuff, the taste that makes you hungry for more. The stuff, taste that delivers.
Enough is never enough. Enough is never enough of the stuff.
Salutations, rotters. Welcome back to Maynard, the podcast that takes a deep dive into the best, worst horror films of the 80s and 90s. I'm Stevie, your VHS veteran. As I'm recording this, it's day 4 of Fright Fest, and I am exhausted. However, I'll be dropping a bonus episode on Patreon with my top 5 recommendations from the festival this week. I've seen some great stuff, some good stuff, and some dreadful stuff. If you want to check that out, just go to patreon.com/Stevie's Brainrot to sign up. Speaking of good stuff, this week I'm covering the much requested The Stuff, Larry Cohen's 1985 satirical B-movie about the sickly sweet substance that consumes you from the inside out. Starring Cohen movie regular Michael Moriarty, this allegory of consumer society is a batshit fun fest, and I think my favourite from Cohen's back catalogue. Joining me to break down this questionable substance are the two co-hosts of a podcast I discovered and devoured when I was recording season 1 of Brainrot. In fact, we actually recorded this episode months ago, just after season 1 wrapped, because I was desperate to get them on the show. Please welcome to the show Erika and Roshane, aka Homies of Horror. What's up, homies?
What's up? How we doing? How we feeling?
Good, I'm really well. How are you guys? Erika, I'll come to you first. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you. Yesterday was my birthday. I had a very good day. A little tired today because it was like the most active I've been in a while, because normally I'm just sitting on the couch all day. But no, it was great. So I'm having a good day so far.
Are you, where are you up to, where you guys are? Are you allowed out?
So we actually just, so I live in Colorado, and where we're at, they just lifted the mask mandate in most places on Tuesday of last week.
Right.
So, I mean, people are out and about, and it's weird.
Almost normality. Oh, I know. That's the thing. Yeah. I've completely, I think, is it like 60 days to form a habit? And I've formed a habit of staying inside. And it's like the anxiety I'm getting when like people are making plans and I'm like, I don't know if I want to go. I have to ease back into everything.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because it's weird. It's weird seeing people's, because like me and my boyfriend were still wearing our masks, but when we were walking out, it was weird seeing people's faces again.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, people have mouths and noses. I forgot. Like, hi.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's crazy. We'll get there though. How about you, Roshane? How are you?
I'm pretty well. As far as the COVID situation goes, here in LA, it's basically like people are pretending it doesn't exist right now. We're basically at the point where everybody's tired of being inside and wearing masks, so they're just rebellious. And it is very frightening every time you go outside, because most people, like Erika was saying, aren't wearing masks and just are pretending like a pandemic didn't just happen. And it's taking some getting used to. However, I'm a homebody anyway, so I'm staying home regardless, unless I have to go out. Right. But There are some small perks. Like I did get to go to the movies like about a week ago, which was nice after a year of not leaving my house.
Yeah.
But it still just feels weird. Same with what you were saying, Erika. Seeing people's faces again, it's throwing me off. I'm real used to everybody with their pretty masks, all customized and looking delightful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love when that happened because it started, everyone just had a basic, it went from surgical masks to slightly more high quality to then full on branding.
Customized. And now I have to remember that when I get to the point where I'm not wearing a mask, I have to remember that people can see my facial expressions again.
Right.
So I can't do all of the reactions to people that I was doing before. I'm like, ugh. Now people know what I'm thinking again.
Yeah, it's going to be the lip syncing for me because with the mask on, when I'm in the grocery store or whatever, and I've got my earphones in, I'm full on music video lip syncing because no one can see my mouth. But I have to remember they're going to be able to see it again at some point. So yeah, maybe start pulling back on that. So I want to talk about your podcast, Homies of Horror, which I only discovered not too long ago, but I'm obsessed. I've been binging it. It is so warm and engaging and fun, and it's just for me one of the absolute best horror podcasts out there. Where did it come about? Like, how do you? Oh no, come on. So, how do you guys know each other, and how did the podcast start?
You want to take it, Erika?
Sure, I'll take it away. So we met each other in college, actually, which was like 10 years ago now.
Oh, don't say that loud.
Sorry. I hate to say it, but it was 10 years ago now. And I'm like, I have to be honest. But yeah, we met when we were in college. We went to performing arts school. And the way that our college was set up, it was... So we were both there for acting, and the way that they would do it is you got split off into groups, and whatever group you were in, you had every single class with those same people.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So we were in the same group, so we saw each other all the time, every day. And so that's how we first met. But then we both realized that we kind of had a love for horror movies. And as you probably know, I don't know what it is about the horror genre that just kind of binds relationships very quickly.
Completely.
It's like as soon as you find someone who is also into it, you're just friends all of a sudden. So that's how we got to know each other. We used to have like horror movie nights in our dorms all the time, and we started playing horror video games together, and that kind of just got us really close really fast. And that's the one thing I think throughout the years that has kept our relationship going. In times when maybe we haven't talked in a while, we'll just be like, hey, did you see that new trailer for like that new movie coming out? Are you gonna see it? And so he's always been my horror
horror guy. Yeah,
my horror guy. Yeah, so my horror homie.
Yes, there you go. Boom.
Mic drop.
Yeah, so then when the pandemic started, I was getting into podcasts fairly, like, it was something I had never really listened to before, but I had a lot more free time at work. So I started listening to them, and they just sounded really fun. And so I thought, what if I did a podcast about horror movies, since I love talking about them so much? And he was just the first person that popped into my head. And I texted him and asked him if that was something he'd be interested in. And basically he was like, yeah, why not? Let's give it a shot. And
perfect. And the rest is
we
history.
tried it from there. Yeah.
Pretty
That's
much.
so cool. I was just listening to your Dream Warriors episode and just living my best life. So what I know genre fans, we sometimes hate being asked this. So I was just talking to you slightly before this, but so why horror? Do you know what it is about horror that attracts you, Roshane?
I think the biggest thing for me is, as somebody who really loves to like deep dive and analyze movies, horror just stood out as a great genre because it's so easy to get it wrong. It's like there's so many bad horror movies out there, and trying to figure out why they're all bad has always been fun for me. But when it gets it right, like when a horror movie gets it right and everything lines up and, you know, the story's good, the character's good, when it surpasses the echelon of terrible horror movies, I don't know what it is about that just makes me gravitate towards it. I think it's my appreciation for like, yo, you did it. You made it through. You broke through the ceiling that is terrible horror. So I think that in and of itself keeps me watching it. But also as a kid, I mean, it's just one of the things that I was always watching horror movies growing up. And always kind of testing my limits to see how much horror I could handle. Because in reality, I'm such a softie. But when it comes to watching horror movies, I'm like, yeah, give me the gore.
Give me more.
Let me see it all. So if nothing else, they're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun.
And what about you, Erika?
So yeah, I guess when I was younger, I was drawn to horror movies because they were kind of like forbidden in a sense. And I was just so interested to see what was happening. And I was a huge scaredy cat when I was younger. So it took me a while I was so drawn to them and I watched them, but then I would have crazy nightmares after watching any sort of horror movie. But then I got to a point where I kind of liked that feeling of watching one and then having a nightmare about it and eventually getting over it and moving on to the next one. And so for a while, that's what kept me going. And then I just sort of realized, I think of any genre, horror is the one where even when it's bad, I still really like it. Yeah. And I don't feel that way about most genres. You know, when a movie is bad like a comedy movie is bad or an action movie is bad, I'm probably not going to want to watch it again because why would I? But something about bad horror movies are still so entertaining. And then when they're good, great. Like that's just a huge plus. But yeah, I don't know. I just am drawn to every subgenre in horror. I don't think that there's one that I don't like. And it's hard for me to feel that way about a lot of movies. Yeah. So I don't know. I just can watch them all day and not get tired of them.
Yeah, I'm completely the same. And I know what you mean about that. You know, a bad comedy, what does that mean? That just means it's a comedy that's not funny, so you're left with absolutely nothing. Whereas a bad horror film, so what? Maybe it's not scary, but there's something about. There's my dog. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
I told you, he likes to howl when I'm recording. There's something about bad horror where it's how earnest it is in them trying to scare you and failing that I find so amusing and heartwarming that it's so entertaining. And also, I made a podcast about bad horror films basically, and that's because also what I didn't realize, I was duped when I was a kid because I was obsessed. I had parents who allowed me to rent horror films, and I didn't realize the tact back then that as a rule of thumb, the better the cover art, the worse the film, because it's the distributor's one chance to snag your attention. Make sure you pick up that cassette and take that home. And so when they had a bad movie, they went all out on those covers. And so I grew up choosing, judging a book by its cover and choosing the best ones by the cover, and of course was taking home absolute crap. And so then that's when it started, and that's what my dog, and that's where it started. So I became obsessed with these schlocky B movies, and of course I love stuff like you were saying, Roshane, that goes through that ceiling and in a heightened place and does something incredible. But this is my base. This is my base horror, and so we're going to be talking about The Stuff by Larry Cohen from 1985. Now, Erika, you had seen this before, right?
Yes, I have seen this before, and it's funny that you say that, like judging a book by its cover, because I remember seeing the cover art for this movie, and I was like, oh man, that looks really good. That looks really cool. It kind of reminded me of The Blob, and that's what I went in thinking it was going to be. And I was wrong. I was wrong, but I was right, but mostly wrong.
Yeah, definitely. And Roshane, you hadn't seen this before, right?
No, I had not. Erika had sent the name to me, and then I looked up the trailer, and then I asked her, she can attest to this. I was like, I'm sorry, is this a movie about killer ice cream? And she said, kinda. And instantly I was like, oh, I'm down. Let's do it. I want to watch this movie. I need to know what happens in it. And so, yeah, I had the pleasure of watching this movie for the first time for this.
Right. And so it's written, directed, and produced by Larry Cohen. Now, I am a really big fan of Larry Cohen and his work. And more so the stories, because a lot of the lore behind his filming and his productions are just as entertaining as the actual films themselves, because he had a guerrilla style of filming where he'd always turn up to places without permits. He'd ask his actors to do really crazy shit, and he just made films happen one way or another by cutting loads of corners. And like, he was so aware that people loved the movies that he knew they'd do anything to be a part of it. So if he wanted to film in a diner for a certain scene, he would just rock up on the day, knock on the door of the diner and go, hey, we've chosen you to film this scene. And they go, oh God, clear, get everyone out, come on. And so he just had this way. And his films are always high concept satire. There's always it's almost his own genre. And he always has a message in there. But I always think he gets his point across without force feeding you his political agenda. It's a nice balance, because obviously this is a massive take on consumerism and stuff like that. And he was inspired by all these generations that were hooked on cigarettes from advertisements, because they made it look so good, and medicine on TV, all the adverts that even warn you, oh, by the way, at the end this could kill you or give you a heart attack, and yet people couldn't get enough of the stuff.
Well done.
No, I mean, I that is something that I will give to this movie, is that it does a good job of having a message while still being entertaining enough where that message is threaded through well enough, it's hidden enough where you can get it but you still enjoy it. So I will give that to this movie, because they sprinkle it in very well. But it's weird. This movie is just such a, I had forgotten a lot of it until this most recent rewatch, and
Same.
it's a strange thing where it's just a lot of different scenes that they tried to sew together, and the thread is just unraveling. It's barely holding on, but it has a story, it has a through line. But you could almost cut 95% of these scenes out, and it would be the same movie. It's very strange.
There's a whole sequence of about, I'd say, half an hour where it's the character Mo, played by Michael Moriarty, going to various offices and talking to rich middle-aged white men about the origins of the stuff and trying to get down. And it's like one after another, these scenes, and that bit gets a little bit monotonous.
Yes, I agree with that.
I was just going to say, it almost felt like watching this every 20 minutes or so, I was slipping into a different movie. That's how I felt. And I think that's what kept me going through this watch of the film, is every little bit, the genre seemed to change. And I was like, okay, I don't know where we're going next, but Sure.
Right. Yes. It's like the bit sort of in the third act when the general gets involved, the colonel, and then it's like an A-team. It's like an A-team episode, and the music's all like chitty bang bang choral, sort of orchestral.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yes. It becomes it's like an action movie all of a sudden. And also, Paul Sorvino, I forgot that he's in this movie, and he just comes out of nowhere. And it's weird because he is in a completely different movie than anybody else in this. And he's so good and so earnest in some of the way that he delivers his lines. It's bizarre. He does not make sense in this movie at all.
No, there's a lot of choices in this film, I think, and especially Michael Moriarty, who plays Mo. He was known for his improvising, and he's a real quote unquote character actor, you know, and he makes some choices. I don't think they always land, but they're always strong and wrong, you know.
Oh, he's committed. He is committed to the very end.
Well, let's run through basically the structure of the film. But before that, can I get a little synopsis from you? Erika, do you want to go first?
Sure. Okay.
Since it was your birthday.
Oh, thank you. All right. So, one night, a man finds a strange white substance bubbling out of the ground. Thinking to himself, I've got to get that in my mouth, he tries it and discovers it's delicious. The stuff soon begins to take over the world as people can't get enough of that sweet, sweet cream. Realizing that something more nefarious is afoot, it's up to a young boy, an ex-FBI agent, and Nicole to stop the stuff before it controls the minds of everyone. But they will soon find out enough is never enough.
Nice. I like and Nicole. His face, that's as fleshed out as her character gets.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later because maybe you guys can explain.
I don't think I'm going to have many.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be very helpful there.
So, Roshane, go on if you got to go.
In the dead of night, a pair of railroad workers find a bubbling pool of sweet addictive substance, soon to be known as the stuff. Soon, the stuff is on every shelf in every household, and America can't seem to get enough. However, when the ruffled ice cream industry hires ex-FBI agent David Mo Rutherford to investigate the stuff, he quickly finds out the grim reality of this tasty dessert. The stuff is alive, and if you're eating it, you're probably already dead.
Nice. Nice. That was like you worked for the film. That you were selling it. You were selling.
I'll take all residuals. Please send them directly to my door. Thank you very much.
Right. So yeah, you both kind of mentioned it. So, I mean, it's such an abrupt start. It's straight to it. There's no buffer, no filler. We just see a guy in the snow, and straight away he's like, "Oh, what's this on the floor? Oh, It's smooth. It tastes real good." Apparently, though, this location wasn't actually meant to be a snowy scene. When they arrived, it just suddenly started snowing, and Larry was like, "Great, let's use it." And the crew were saying, "We're not set up for a snowshoot. The equipment will explode and fry." and so he was like, well, let's shoot it until it explodes and fries. And sure enough, after 45 minutes, things started to spark and blow, but they got the scene. But this is the thing, he always tells, 30 years later, he always tells these sort of stories, and you're never really sure how much truth is in them. Some of them are so elaborate that you're like, really, did that happen? You let the equipment get bust on a B movie where you probably don't have spares, but sure.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of worked out that it was snowing. For some reason, it made more sense that it was snowing than if it had been a normal weather, because I don't know, I guess I could kind of excuse him dipping, being like, oh, this is a weird texture of snow. I don't think you should put that in your mouth, but some people eat snow, so maybe.
Don't eat yellow snow though.
No.
Don't eat the yellow snow.
Avoid the yellow snow for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe it personally, because they reference the snow so much that I just think, all right, okay, what was it bubbling out of in the first place then? Anyway, I don't know. I don't believe that story, but it's just one of his tall tales, I'm sure. But then we meet Jason, who's the little boy. He's part of this, they're proper like commercial family, aren't they? They're all blue-eyed, cookie cutter, the perfect looking family.
I was so jealous of everyone's eyes. I was like, that's not fair.
Right.
That is not fair. You should not have such beautiful eyes, you beautiful family.
Yeah, like crystals.
Crystals. Yes. Absolutely pure blue. Unreal. I don't know where they found these people.
Was that on the casting call? It had to be, because they all have the most insane eyes. And particularly Jason and the brother, their eyes are almost identical, like the same color blue.
It's crazy.
Oh,
it's
what?
Crazy. I don't know where they found them. But it works so well because they are that sort of perfect advertisement family. And obviously they do become engulfed by this consumerism world. So I think that's so well cast.
Yes, it is. It is really well done. Especially the dad and the mom are so oddly Leave It to Beaver-esque.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously we find out later that Jason has been missing school a lot, but in this first bit when he's down in the kitchen and he's looking for a snack, the dad comes in hot. I mean, he's ready.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's ready to beat Jason up immediately.
I know, right? It's like he's hungry. He could just be thirsty. Your kid needs something.
I've never seen someone so upset about a late night snack before.
Right.
It was unreal.
And he spanks him.
Yeah. And then sends him back to his room. I'm like, he's already awake.
Right.
At least let him get something.
How dare
something
you
to
be
nibble
hungry,
on.
son? How
Go
dare
without.
you?
It's crazy. But then we meet all the sort of the ice cream executives who are all on their boat, on their luxury boat, and they want to discover the ingredients of the stuff that's put them out of business, right?
That was the first movie shift for me, where I was like, we left slight horror movie setup to enter Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know where we're going with this, but
And also, okay, so when Mo gets on the boat is the first part when I really clocked this, but maybe it was happening before and I just wasn't paying as much attention. But did they dub over everybody?
That's what I thought. I didn't know if it was just my internet connection while I was watching the film, but no one's mouth was matching up with their words.
I was watching it on Blu-ray and it did not match up. There was some strange, but sometimes it did, and then it was like they decided post-production to change the line, so they kept some of it. Very strange.
It's particularly for, I noticed it the most with Mo, because he kind of mumbles when he speaks, and so his mouth is always doing something completely different than what the words are saying, and so it's like he barely opened his mouth on set, and I don't know if they told him to do that because they might redub,
right.
or if he had to do that to get that kind of southern drawl that he was wanting, but
it was probably that he this is what I was talking about by choices. You know, he's so theatrical, and all this stuff about, you got a sweaty palm, you've got a sweaty palm, that was all improvised as well. He's an odd one.
He is, and then he goes in, he's kind of telling them about what he can do, and first of all, he's ex-FBI. This is very important. He needs everybody to know that. And as he leaves, he punches a guy in the face because the guy made an offhand comment about being kicked out of the FBI. I mean, Mo is he's such a strange guy because his personality will change within a second. He's so calm through this whole interaction, and then as soon as he leaves, he just gets really violent, and then is like, okay, bye.
Yeah, and it's with jaw-breaking force. It's like a really serious punch. He's really unhinged.
He is, and somebody even says he broke his jaw.
Yeah, but that's dubbed as well,
tell?
isn't it? Yeah, that's an added afterwards. You hear, he broke his jaw. It's like, what? Okay, so we've set up this guy that we're sort of meant to fear, I guess, slightly, and then we're back with the family, and this is when Jason, a little kid, he's warning the family that the stuff is bad. Like, he spots it straight away. Well, I say spots it, he sees it moving on its own in the fridge, which is interesting. Something we don't really, I mean, why try and make sense of why it would be moving around on its own in the fridge? If I start questioning things like that, we'll be here all day. But this is, we get a little shot where they have a dig at Coca-Cola, where because Mo is with the scientist, and he's saying that it's protected by the FDA, the same law that protects Coca-Cola, and it was this law where you didn't have to. Because back in the 1920s, Coca-Cola contained microdoses of cocaine, and they didn't have to advertise that. That was protected, and so it's a little dig at that. but it's just a very short scene, purely put in to have a dig at Coca-Cola at that point.
Which I kind of liked. I'm not gonna lie. I liked the little jab. Yeah. It made me smile.
And I mean, it was sold so much like the stuff, you know. It was this highly addictive consumable, and it was sold in the same way. So I totally get it. I think it's a nice little hit.
Yeah, it's a good correlation. And the stuff, right away, we are introduced to the idea that everyone is obsessed with this stuff. Like, immediately, it's being mass sold. They barely did any testing on it. There's no, you know, nobody has access to where they get the stuff, what's in the stuff. And something that's interesting about the stuff is, and this is coming from a person who, there are certain foods I eat specifically for the texture. The stuff is, sometimes it's the texture of Cool Whip. Sometimes it's yogurt.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is kind of ice cream, but maybe melted ice cream. Its texture is so interesting. And later on, I mean, the stuff is inside of a pillow, and they sleep on it as if it has the same firmness as a pillow. I'm just so intrigued by what this would taste like. I guess I kind of imagine it like marshmallow fluff.
That's what I always think, like sweet marshmallow fluff. But I mean, yeah, there are some inconsistencies in its texture throughout the film, and that's because they used so many different things. They did use, they did use yogurt, they did use ice cream, they used shaving foam, and all the stuff where you see it moving around in big portions. That's when they used. It was a fire retardant the fire engines used, and but it was actually made of ground up fish bones. So the days on set when they were using that weren't particularly pleasant, as you can imagine, for everyone involved. Just literally foamed fish bones.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's pretty rough. But yeah, as you say, we jump and it's already taken over the world. So there's quite a time gap there, and they're shooting this commercial, and yeah, we meet Nicole? ?
So this is the one thing that still confuses me is, so in that scene right before we go to the commercial where he says the thing about Coca-Cola, he says, oh, and this is Nicole, who is going to be doing some undercover work for me. And then we cut to the next scene, which is the commercial, and we meet Nicole again, but now she's directing the commercial, and according to them, she has been working on their marketing since the beginning. But then Nicole and Mo are in a relationship, so they've known each other. It's not adding. Their relationship makes zero sense to me, and I don't know where she came from.
Do you know what? That's so strange. That's so strange because I think I missed the line about her being undercover. Because for me, I saw it as this very strange thing where she's like a marketing director. And then Mo comes in, says he's from a petroleum company, and he wants her to take over the company for him to promote their petroleum. And then the next time, jumping ahead, when we see them together, they're fully in a relationship, and she no longer thinks that he is who he says he was. And I don't know, there's a weird passage of time.
It's weird because, and maybe I'm mixing, because when she comes in, I wrote a note because he says, oh, this is Nicole, and she's going to be doing some extra undercover stuff for me. And then, so I wrote Nicole, and then it cut to the next scene, and we meet her again, and I said, oh, never mind, that's not Nicole, that's Kendall. And then he introduces himself to her, and she says, oh, I miss Kendall, blah, blah, blah. But then in the future, he's calling her Nicole.
Yes.
And I wrote, wait, what? Because so she is the same person, and I don't know if they're trying to imply that they have to act like they don't know each other in that scene to continue his undercoverness. But
no one else is in the conversation, so they don't need to carry on that cover.
It's just for them.
So,
they're doing
so
a little
confusing.
scene, a little
role play.
Yeah, making it spicy for later on, but it's just for them.
Okay, well, yeah. So you've only added questions to my questions. We have no answers here, so never mind about that. Anyway, it never becomes apparent, and it's very strict. I mean, at the end, it's crazy because it's him, Nicole, and a little boy who they don't know running around a factory. So it's all very dodgy. But actually, speaking of the little boy, then we get Jason in the supermarket going crazy.
Oh my God. I wrote down, why is this little boy being completely unchecked by this entire grocery store? This young man was able to demolish this entire building without not a single adult being able to stop him. I said, what is he, the Hulk? What is going on? He is slapping the stuff onto the ground off of shelves. He is ramming things with what looks like a baseball bat. He's breaking windows.
The glass. He's a menace in this scene.
Ritalin, anybody?
And it comes out of nowhere because obviously we know Jason is aware that something weird is going on, but he gets there and he's just kind of wandering around, and then he sees a little kid eating this stuff straight out of the container, still in the grocery store, by the way.
Very true.
And that just sets him off. I mean,
he's triggered.
Oh my gosh. Oh, he cannot be stopped at that point. So yeah, he breaks the glass. Multiple adults try to hold him down, and he's a slippery little sucker. He's just like going through people, bobbing and weaving out of people's arms.
He gets caught like 3 times, but then the scene will cut to the next one, and he's just roaming free, just knocking more stuff down.
Yeah, because it's the way it escalates. Because first of all, it's like knocking some on the floor, and then it's like pulling loads of a display down. But when it gets to breaking glass, you're like, okay, someone needs to grab him hard.
Yeah.
And they do. It takes 3 full-grown adults to take down this one child. And they're barely holding on.
Yeah, barely. I bet he probably had such a blast shooting that scene, though. If I was
you can see it in his face. Like, watch the scene where he's going through with the bat or the stick or whatever, and he's got the biggest smile on his face while he's sliding through them all. I loved it.
And they probably had to do it so many times, but he was loving life.
Oh, yeah. I would be loving it, too, honestly.
And then I think Mo then visits someone called Mr. Vickers. He works for the FDA. Now, this is one of the first of several scenes where he's just in various offices going, so, what do you know about this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, Mr. Vickers doesn't know much about it. No one's ever any help. But he says that he had to approve the dessert, And, he's at his house, isn't he? He's got the massive dog.
Yes.
I have questions about this. Yeah. I have questions here. So he agrees to give him some of the preliminary paperwork. So he leaves, and then, so the dog, the dog attacks him. The dog attacks his owner, and it also rips the phone out from the wall, so he can't call the police.
That was my favorite part. That was my favorite thing. Watching him, no, and the dog just casually wanders over and like, no phone calls for you.
I love that the stuff not only, because the dog's been eating the stuff, I love that the stuff not only just turns you into a crazy person, it gives dogs the sort of foresight and cerebral power to know how to unplug a phone. It's fantastic.
Yes.
But I don't really understand why, because the dog and Mr. Vickers have been eating the stuff.
Exactly.
Right. It's implied, I suppose, that Ben is more addicted to the stuff.
The dog.
The dog Ben is more addicted to the stuff than Mr. Vickers, because all throughout the scene when he's talking to Mo, Ben is kind of getting agitated, and Mr. Vickers is getting scared and running around the room almost. So then I guess that Mr. Vickers runs out of the stuff and doesn't have any more to give to Ben, which makes no sense because he has at least 50 containers of it in his house.
Yes,
that's what I thought. Didn't we see an entire room full of the stuff?
Yes, with a spotlight coming down on the stuff.
It was displayed on a table.
Yes. And I guess he runs out of all of that and doesn't have any more, and Ben gets upset and decides to kill him. But why would you kill the person who is supplying you?
Right. That's biting the hand that feeds you,
stuff.
literally.
Yeah, exactly. I think they just really, really wanted to have a dog.
Yeah, transform.
That dog moment, which, hey, I understand. It's worth it, but it does not make any sense.
No.
What was it, though? Just looking
You're
at
telling me you did not enjoy seeing
It's
that
so
dog's
cool.
head, its mouth expand, and that white stuff just come out of his mouth?
I enjoyed it. I won't say that I won't, but I also will not say that it was good because the perspective shift from that dog into the prop dog head was so jarring. I couldn't help but laugh. It was so good.
Is. And it's like shaking as it's stepping down. It's like, ah.
The way, real quick too, because this is like one of the first times we get to see it though, the way the stuff comes out of these like prop heads is just so unnerving. I don't like it. I don't like, cause
It's
like,
horrible.
because the first their mouths expand, right? And then it's like their necks get all gurgly and you can tell something's coming up. For some reason, I always assume it'd be like a foam or like a froth. But then you just get this viscous liquid just coming out. Like, oh, God.
Yeah, it's really effective. Especially, you can see it's like touching every side of the throat. So no air is coming with it. So it just makes me feel like super gross. And especially later on when Chocolate Chip Charlie, we'll come to that. But that was actually
what a character.
A hand puppet. So they didn't. It was made of like they carved out of foam. So it was someone's hand coming up for that bit. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Now I get a little bit confused about this whole small town where the stuff was the origin of the stuff and how they're forwarding the mail to Atlanta or Georgia or something like that.
Yeah, so Strader, Virginia is where they did the testing of the stuff. So that's where all the people lived who originally tried it. And then they all moved to Georgia because that's the headquarters?
I think so. Well, that's where the factory is, right?
Right.
Yeah, were the people who were consuming the stuff then, like, being brainwashed to join the factory to help produce more of this? Is that what was happening? Because I was confused as well.
Yeah, because obviously the place in Georgia must be where it's bubbling from the ground, because that's where the big pool of it is. So this place in Virginia, I don't see the point. I think it's just so he has to go on it. Yeah, I think it's just so he has to go on this wild goose chase to track it down, I guess.
Right.
But we do get to meet Chocolate Chip Charlie now, played by Garrett Morris.
What an entrance is what I wrote when he popped onto the screen.
Literally pops onto the screen. So.
Literally pops onto the screen, jumps on top of a car, and starts doing karate against Mo.
Yes, he kung fu fights his way onto the screen. This is the first, don't get me wrong, all the scenes before this were nonsensical, but this is the first scene that really feels like it could be in a different movie, and I would not question it. It's so, the way that, so he gets there. Mo gets there. Also, he's supposed to be this amazing undercover agent, and he tells everybody his real name.
The gas attendant.
Everybody. He's like, I'm Mo Rutherford. Even his nickname. He's like, all my friends call me Mo, but then he introduces himself as Mo Rutherford to everybody. But yeah, so he gets there, talks to the gas attendant, who is really wants him to go use the bathroom. Really wants him to go to the bathroom.
Selling that bathroom, isn't he?
He's like, I got a new towel in there and everything. I was like, is that what is most important in the bathroom? Is the towels? But
he ends up running off into the bushes for no reason anyway.
And then he runs into the woods.
I don't think he was the gas attendant. I think he is a squatter. This place has been deserted. And he's like, oh shit, somebody's here. Quick, pretend I work here.
I forgot about that. Yeah. So he runs into the woods, and then Mo just kind of wanders down this deserted road, and Chocolate Chip Charlie just so happens to be there. But I love how immediately they are partners in crime.
Yeah, because he's there for the same reasons as Mo, but he just appears from behind a car coming out, kung fu fighting. And so then the one other person in this town is the post office attendant, and because all the mail is being forwarded to this place in Georgia, like it's being diverted there, and then the post office guy, he like goes to the toilet or something, and so we we see that the stuff comes out of him, and this is a little inconsistent. It happens again later, but the stuff sort of wants to leave this vessel, and it leaves him lying on the ground. And it's because we see the stuff climbing out the window, and this is when they use this flame retardant made of blended fish, and it's a bit of stop motion, bit of animation. So it leaves him, but then in like 2 minutes' time, we see him sort of get up and wipe his mouth like he's
it comes back.
My biggest, I don't know if it comes back or if there's more in him. My biggest question is just, what is the stuff after? Because we keep seeing it do that throughout the entire film, where it'll vacate the premises of people's bodies and then soon return like 5 minutes later. Like, why did you leave in the first place? I'm so confused.
Right, because so it seems like this stuff is wanting to control people's minds, but that's what is weird, because couldn't you just stay inside of, which we see happen in a minute is when they get attacked by all of the townspeople. Couldn't you just stay inside of the body and attack them that way? Or are you just running because you're scared and then you're going to come back once they're gone? But what do you have to be scared of? You can't die. You're the stuff.
Also, both of these gentlemen were so nonchalant about seeing a potentially dead body. Like 2 minutes after meeting him, like, oh, looks like the stuff left him. Let's go chase after the stuff, while he's laying there, just mouth agape. Like, okay.
Like he's just watched the video in the ring. Yeah, they don't do anything about that. And as you say, Erika, then we get the townsfolk with their pitchforks and various farming implements. Now, this is when we first kind of see that these people are hollowed out. Like, because when you punch one, their like face just concaves.
Explodes.
Yeah. And they are just these empty vessels full of stuff. Well, not even full, to be honest, but they're just pretty
just
empty.
Just a little bit. It seems like there's not that much stuff inside of them.
No.
It's like a handful of stuff. And yeah, they get chased by the townspeople out of the town, and they escape because I guess the stuff has alerted everybody. I think everyone kind of has a hive mind. So they know that,
sort of hive
and they're just like, hey, there's some trouble afoot. So then they chase Chocolate Chip Charlie and Mo into a boat, and I love it because there's one guy that
helping them,
that helps push the boat, but he makes it seem he like is acting like he's trying to grab them, but really they needed him to push the boat because they would not have gotten out in time if this was real. Like they were not on the move at all.
I loved that bit, pretending he's pulling, but he's absolutely pushing him off.
He did his best. He did his best. Bless his heart. I for one enjoyed our transition from the buddy cop movie into the zombie film for a moment. Like I said at the beginning, this movie just cycles through so many genres. It really keeps you on your toes the entire time because you never know where it's going to go next.
Yeah, well, we have. I think Mo has arranged that he's going to join Nicole at the stuff factory, and this is when I noticed that they were partners, and it looked like they had been for a while, and I was like, when was this passage of time? Very confusing.
Because so he leaves Chocolate. We have this diner scene where he leaves Chocolate Chip Charlie and tells him to go to. I just love that we full
name him Chocolate Chip Charlie every time. Never just Charlie.
So he tells him to go to Washington, and then he's going to go meet Nicole. And I guess, are we meant to believe that it is in this diner scene that the waitress, like, spikes Charlie with the stuff.
I guess because she's being all weird and mysterious, and then we see they've got a freezer full, even though she said she has no stuff.
Right.
And, so Charlie's been left at the diner. So this is a whole new aspect, isn't it? When people infected with the stuff are like sort of drugging other people with the stuff.
Right. So I guess that's what happens to Charlie. But yes, so when we next see Mo and he's with Nicole, she's upset and she's crying and she can't believe that she helped them get the stuff. She automatically believes everything that Mo is saying.
Right.
And also, I guess she's never eaten the stuff, despite the fact that she's been marketing it since.
Yeah, but doesn't that suggest that he has literally just told her his true identity? So
right.
Because the reason she's crying is she's just found out that actually he's undercover and he thinks the stuff is, really bad and they're killing people. So she's just found this information out, yet they're like linking, kissing and holding hands. And I'm like, hang on, he's just told you he's been lying to you. What's going on?
Was? The way that he came in and interrupted her set, she's never seen anything like it, and that's when she knew he was the one.
That's it.
He was so aggressive. So, what a man.
That's what did it. Works every time.
Is this also the part where he almost gets ran over?
Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about this.
By
The stuff cart lady on the street signals that he is coming. So actually, I've completely forgot this. We don't go anywhere with this. There's a whole layer that there's this sort of government secret cover-up going on, and they're trying to sort of off him because he knows what's going on.
Yeah, he knows too much.
Yeah, so they're one weapon, and the only time they attempt to kill him is by running him over with a car. And they miss, and then they give up. They're like, well, we did the best we could.
We tried.
Oh, also, in the slightly backwards, but in the bar scene with Chocolate Chip Charlie, can we take a moment of appreciation for the fact that Mo went out of his way to whisper the fact that he was FBI, to which Chocolate Chip Charlie immediately, at the loudest volume possible, is like, "Oh, the FBI!" So everyone can hear.
That's what alerts everyone.
I was like, I love Chocolate Chip Charlie.
What a character. And we're back with the Jason's family now, and they're trying to make him eat the stuff because they are consumed. They are too far gone now. And he even has a line which I really like where he says to his parents, "Why are you speaking like you're in a commercial?" Which I do like this. I think it's really creepy. And that sort of, it's got that Stepford wife vibe. And she's going on about how she's lost 5 pounds in just a week. It's good for you. And he pours his down the toilet and fills it with shaving foam so that he can pretend that he's eating it. And now, ironically, when the actors are eating the stuff from the carton, they never knew if it was going to be one of the 3 versions, cream, custard, or shaving foam. Actual shaving foam. So some of the actors in the film had to actually eat shaving foam because it depended on what shot it was in the setup and how they needed it to look. And can you imagine trying to get away with that now? Like, that film would be shut down in 5 minutes, but some of them had to eat shaving foam.
Why don't they just use Cool Whip or something?
Or literally anything else. I wrote, how is this child not dead from consuming that much shaving cream? I didn't understand. And he was gobbling it up, too. Like, oh, this is great stuff.
Jason really fumbled the plan here because I actually will give this to him. It wasn't a bad idea. But when he came back down and he had the thing full of shaving cream, in my head, I was thinking, well, why didn't you only fill it up about halfway and then make it seem like you've been eating it?
I feel
and
the
then
same.
That way you maybe only have to eat a spoonful or 2. He is consistently eating it throughout this entire scene. And then the brother says, something like, oh, I never get tired anymore. Once again, Jason is triggered. He leaves the stuff on the table and runs. And at first I thought, oh, he probably has to go throw up because he's eating so much shaving cream. No, he's booking it out of the house. Why did he put it back on the table? Because that's what alerted the dad.
Why did he even fill it up at all? Why didn't he just come back down with the empty carton
and go,
and just say, hey, that was delicious. Oh,
and have it like maybe have some shaving cream on his mouth.
On his lip or something.
Be like,
Yeah. I do think there was a version of this plan where he had to consume no shaving cream at all. I think like it existed.
Yeah, so he books it out of the house and his family is chasing him. And before this, Mo saw an article about Jason because apparently that's nationwide news that there's one little boy that doesn't like the stuff and that like ruined a grocery store. So Mo comes and tells Jason to get into his car, and Jason is immediately like, oh, great. Oh, yeah, please get me in your car, sir.
Hello, new father. It is nice to meet you.
I guess you're my family now. Yeah.
Yeah, and he rocks up at the airfield to meet Nicole with this young boy in tow. It's crazy.
And Nicole reacts appropriately.
Yes,
she does.
I was happy to see that instead of her just like normally you'd see in a film when they go, oh, hey, the more the merrier. It's like, no, who is this child? Where are his parents? And no, he can't come on the plane, but she gives it. Right. But yeah, she does react appropriately, and they get the plane, the midday plane to Georgia, and yeah, is the stuff already on the plane? Because once they've landed, they leave Jason on the plane and go into the factory, and then the pilot just like gets it.
Wasn't it? Didn't somebody come and just like spew it on the pilot?
Yeah.
Did I remember that correctly?
I missed that.
Mm-hmm. So one of the guys, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, it was one of the people that was in Virginia.
Yeah.
Has been alerted of their presence, has come, thrown up the stuff on the front of the plane, and it like broke through the glass and is suffocating. That's another thing. I guess the stuff suffocates you.
Yes, because it happens later in the motel when it does full face hugger on the face, doesn't it?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it suffocates him for some reason, which doesn't seem like the quickest way of doing that.
Well, I would assume it would attempt to then go into the body, but it never does. Like whenever it does face hugger, it is completely it's decided that's what it's going to do. It's not going to go any Yeah, it's not. It has given up any cause or want to be inside your body. And it's like, I'm just going to kill you. It's like, okay. Right. Your motivations are shifting throughout this film stuff, but I'm here for it. I'm trying to keep up.
Yeah, it's like, I guess, but wouldn't they want, because if they kill somebody, the stuff can't get inside of it. It needs like a live body.
It's a waste of a vessel.
So wouldn't they want to just keep that body somehow? Maybe slither themselves down? I don't know. But and anyway.
Wouldn't it just end all of their problems too if they were to get inside of Mo and then it's like, all right, we got control of the one guy trying to stop us.
Yeah, something. But so they left Jason alone also, which because he was asleep, they left him alone on the plane with a stranger. And so Jason wakes up and the pilot is now dead and he makes a run for it. And then we cut back to Mo and Nicole, who are getting a tour of the factory. And so this is the first time that Mo uses a fake name in the entire movie. This is the only time. And it's only because Nicole came up with the fake name for him.
What does he say?
She says, I don't remember what the fake name is, but
I think I missed it.
She says, she's pretending to be a journalist, and then she says that he's her like photographer. So she introduces herself as something differently and him as well. And I was like, Mo, aren't you the professional? Shouldn't you have been doing this all along? Why? Who is Nicole? And why is she better at this job than you are?
It's so true. And then Jason doesn't have it's not the brainiest to jump in an empty stuffed tanker.
No.
You know, the big lorry.
How did he find the factory? And how did he get there subsequently so quickly, too? Is he Usain Bolt? Because I feel like he got there instantaneously the moment that he left the plane.
Right.
So fast. And at first he stumbles upon a cave. And you almost think, we're gonna have something weird here, where maybe he'll find another thing of the stuff coming out of the earth. No, we'd cut from the cave, and now he's at the factory. And his plans, he has the weirdest plans, because he jumps into a truck instead of just saying, I'm going to run in a different direction. He climbs on top of a truck where everybody can see him. Yeah. Jumps down into the truck, and then they seal him inside of it. So now he's trapped in this truck. And as far as Mo and Nicole know, they think he's already being flown to a different state.
Right.
So they're like, Jason's fine.
Just to give us some stakes there, isn't it? So now we're like, okay, so now we've got a time limit to battle as well here. And then there's the motel scene, which is kind of this whole set piece is my absolute favourite. But it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but it's really fun to look at. So Mo and Nicole are lying on the bed. The pillow bursts, as you said. It was already full with the stuff. So has someone planted that?
They had left stuff in the pillowcase so that when they fell asleep. Oh, well, and I think because I was going to say the factory people asked them if, we can get some lodging for you. But then don't Mo and Nicole say, no, we'll find our own? And they do. So...
Is that what happened? I could have sworn that the factory workers were like, we have a motel set up for you guys. Yeah. And that they went to the motel set by the factory workers. Yeah, that's how I thought it happened. Yeah, so I could be wrong, though.
Unless they just put a stuffed pillow in every motel room.
just in case.
Yeah. Which, no, you're probably right. Which, if that was the case, I don't know why Mo didn't think that was weird. But so they planted a pillow of to explode in their sleep, and face hugs Mo, and Nicole is running around trying to figure out what to do, and she says, I'm gonna light it on fire, which was a lucky guess for her, because that could have gone very, very wrong.
And also, considering it's on his face, to set something on fire that is already melded to your face is really risky. Luckily for her, it was a good move, and it's kind of like a leech. It kind of burnt it off like a leech. But I do love this whole thing, because then we get the sort of receptionist guy bursting in, and the bed is just spewing so much stuff everywhere. And this is the turney room that they used for Nightmare on Elm Street. It's exactly the same one, because this was a year later.
Yes.
Okay. Because they use it twice, don't they? They use it for Tina at the beginning, and then for the Johnny Depp scene. So obviously Mo and Nicole, they're actually fixed to harnesses onto one side of the wall with the camera, and then that's how it's just dragging him up and around. I love that rig. It's so good.
It's so cool. Super cool.
It's very effective, and it's very clever for that time, because obviously, they have to figure out the best and safest way of doing effects like that. And I will say, it still looks cool in this movie. It's just funny because, so the receptionist bursts in, and you almost think, he is also, he's gonna try and attack them too. But no, he's just mad because they're ruining the room, because then he proceeds to be attacked by the stuff, and they watch him slowly die before Nicole finally says, Mo, help him. And then Mo sets it on fire, and then they just leave him to burn.
Just burning. Him being shot up against that wall was very reminiscent of both Scary Movie 1 bedroom scene
gosh.
and Scary Movie 2 freezer scene for me.
100%. It was everything about it. The substance, the whole thing. It was so similar.
They just straight leave him to die. I thought that was so
Every
funny.
time they see like a dead body or someone dying, they just walk away. It's like, I can't deal with this right now. Someone else is going to take that one.
They're like, well, can't win them all. I guess I'll try again next time. So they leave him, and then
They go to the quarry, right?
Yes.
And this is when we see, I mean, it's really not. It's a pretty crappy when we see the pool of the pool of stuff with these bobbing. I don't even know what to call them.
It looked like an amusement park attraction.
Yeah.
Like, come see the stuff pool. Biggest pool in all around.
Yeah.
Stuff for days.
It kind of reminds me of the way that it moves when it like reaches out. It kind of reminds me of Flubber, like the way it like almost like I don't know, it reminds me of slime. And slime to me is really, I hate the texture of slime, so seeing it come out grosses me out. But
we never. It was at this point I was looking at the time and go, we're very close to the end, and I was like, we never actually find out what the stuff is. I mean, I kind of want to know. I guess that's deliberate because it keeps us guessing. I mean, but is it an alien? What is it? A natural occurring substance? I know Larry Cohen. He said that he likes to think of it as the Earth's payback for treating it so badly, like by infiltrating our food chain and wiping us out in sweet revenge. Well, no pun intended. It's the Earth, getting its own back on us.
Funny enough, though, even though I agree, I wanted to know exactly what the stuff was, just because we've got so much time invested into it at this point. Oddly enough, I was okay with never knowing what the stuff was, too. Like, somehow the movie worked without you knowing the actual contents of the stuff, just because it's so nonsensical and wacky that at that point, I don't think you really care anymore. You're just like, sure. True. It's a pool in the ground. That's fine with me.
But the tank with Jason, they start to fill that, right? Mm-hmm. And then this is when Mo is got hold of an outfit as one of the workers, and he's down in the quarry, and he's also got on him
grenades,
TNT, yes.
Claymore C4,
yes. Which I guess maybe he just carries that with him, just in case. You never know. But
it's an ex-FBI thing.
Yeah,
you wouldn't get it.
We wouldn't understand, but. And I don't know if maybe he had brought that because they were planning to maybe do that at the warehouse and just didn't get to that point quite yet. But yeah, so he's setting it up along the walls of the quarry. And at the same time, Jason is having to deal with his truck slowly being filled with the stuff. This is another point where, what is the stuff doing? I mean, he's there. He's right there in front of him, or in front of it. He's yelling at it. So,
and he's almost speaking to it like it's communicating with him telepathically. It's really strange. Right. He's going, "You want me? I know you want me. Yeah. You're telling me you want me.
Get me then." Yeah. And it's like, okay. So yeah, Jason's having this like very tense moment with the stuff in the truck, and nothing comes of it until Mo saves him and pulls him out of the truck, and then the stuff reaches for him. Right. Why?
Why now?
Why now?
Why now? You had your moment.
How funny would it have been if it turns out the stuff didn't want him at all. It just goes over to him and is like, nah, we're good. We're gonna fight. Because he's so convinced that the stuff wants to capture him, right? And I just think it would be hilarious if the stuff was like, we're good. We're going to find somebody else.
There's a whole, they go and they pick up Nicole, who's with the, back with the truck. God. And now this is just, they just put this in because they wanted a cool effect, didn't they? This bit with the, did they run over the guy?
Oh,
yeah.
That's attacking her?
Yeah.
Yeah, they run him over because there's this guy at the truck and he's fighting Nicole, and she like pokes his eye out, and by all accounts, she has incapacitated him, and she could get away if she really wanted to.
Because he's really overreacting about that.
Right.
As well.
His eye has completely destroyed him. He can't function. But instead, she kind of almost falls back into him, and then they hug each other, and then she falls, and then he falls on top of her, and then they run over half of his body with the truck. So
That's
he
right.
explodes stuff out of his torso.
I like it. I love it. I think it's so cool. And then that, I think you can kind of call all of that, even though loads of crazy shit has happened, one section. And then we're in the car and he's like, oh, let's go visit my friend Colonel Spears. And this is where the film takes a bit of a left turn.
Yes.
So we meet, Colonel Spears, played by Paul Savino. And Mo once tapped his phone and he has dirt on him, basically, and he convinces him to help him with his army of men who, every time you see them, are going, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yes.
Like, every time we see them.
They did not
crazy.
write any lines for the army people. They just said, just do whatever you feel like you would if you were in the army.
Right.
And they're like, okay.
Fighting sounds.
But also just a quick thing before they get to the base.
Yeah.
The scene where they get pulled over by the cop.
Oh my gosh,
and there's like stuff leaking out of the back of their truck. And they all are like, oh, I'm so hungry. I need to eat some stuff. And they convince the cop to also eat the stuff. What?
Right.
Why is that scene even in the movie?
Why did we need that?
The only purpose of that scene is that we find out Mo says something like, oh, you have to eat enough stuff before it can control you. Like,
Right.
that's all we learned from that scene, but we didn't need that scene. He could have just said that, and I would have been like...
that could have been elsewhere for that entire scene. But that is helpful, because a few times I was wondering, when you're controlled by this stuff, can you recognize when someone else is, or if they're not, and then that's why you want to go
Right.
after them?
Which they flip-flop a bit. I think they're in earlier scenes, the hive mind can tell that Mo and company are not stuffed out. But later on, it becomes a little bit muffled, I think.
Right, right. Well, this is... I think then we get the army all descending on the factory. And this is like an A-Team episode.
Yes.
Like the music, everything about it.
Oh, man. Yes. They all attack the warehouse because I guess they're an army, but they're also like off the grid, and they are convinced that like mind control is going to be a thing, and that, you know, they're putting things in the water and everything. So they're very easily convinced
Yeah.
Right.
of
Which
everything.
on paper, isn't everything that the army's doing completely illegal? Just in sense of like, I get that the stuff is the villain of this film. However, they are fully in the wrong for just an unsolicited army raiding a factory
full of workers.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that would make more national news than a boy destroying a grocery store, but...
Because if Mo was lying, or if Mo was wrong, they killed a lot
So
of innocent
many
people.
And destroyed the product.
Yes, that everyone's obsessed with. Yes, because the army people have never even heard of this stuff. So they get there, and this is when we find out that everybody at the factory has a contingency plan for if a moment like this were to occur. They have a plan that basically everybody kills themselves, and then the stuff
I wasn't sure.
them?
This is the thing. Because the colonel says, oh, I've seen this before, basically, they've had cyanide pills or whatever, and they've killed themselves. But I think, because they don't know quite what's going on yet, what's happened is, like we saw with the post office guy, the stuff's gone, oh shit, they're here to get me. So it's like, get out of the vessel. And these are fully taken over people, so there's nothing left of the human, I think.
Okay.
So once the stuff leaves them, it's just their empty body. That's what
So,
I think is happening.
Are we led to believe that every factory worker all gathered together in that room and just collectively vomited the stuff?
Yes,
so that
I
it
want to
could-
see that scene.
So that it could form the super stuff to then leave the premises.
Yep.
Right. I think that's it. Yeah, and it bursts. Does it burst through the factory walls on its own, or do they do this? I can't remember.
I think it did. It was like, right? It was going to try and make a run for it.
Because
by
it's
bursting
chasing
through the
like
wall.
Nicole and Jason.
Yeah, it's chasing Nicole and Jason. And so at first it kind of burst through the door. And then I think the door just was not enough. Like, was not a big enough hole for it. So then, yeah, it just kind of like goes through the wall. But I love when Jason and Nicole get out and the stuff is following them and all the army people are like, don't let it touch you, and then cut to 2 seconds later they're all just like drowning in it because it like burst through the wall.
Right.
And I'm like, so are they dead now? Because if they can get out of it, as long as it doesn't get into on their face,
In the system, yeah.
they should be fine.
Yeah, and we've been told just very recently that you need to have quite a lot before it can take over anyway.
Yeah.
Who knows? With the big explosion when it comes through the walls, through the factory walls, you get that sort of big wide shot. Cohen sent that off to be done by this special effects company, and he only paid them half of what was agreed because he didn't like it. Yet he still used it, which I think is really sucks. He was like, "Oh, I don't think it's very good. Oh no, I'm going to use it, but I'm only going to give you a couple of grand or whatever it was," which I think kind of sucks. But that's him. That sounds like him.
That does suck.
And then, so the plan is, he goes, okay, well, let's leave the stuff here. Let's fly back to Atlanta and get on the radio. And we'll just tell everyone about the stuff, right?
Instead of destroying it, even though they know how to destroy the stuff at this point,
Very flammable.
Mo and Nicole know how to get rid of it, and yet they're like, nah, yeah, let's just leave it here. It'll be fine.
We need to get on the radio.
Yes. Also, I just need to point out that this is such a the weirdest bit of dialogue in this movie to me is the part where they're inside of the factory and Mo and like Colonel Spears, they're like talking to each other, and Mo is walking around all the dead bodies and he's like, this is what happens. What if you don't like what's inside of you? And he's like, guns won't protect you, blah, blah, blah. And like, he's having this really intense, introspective moment.
Yeah.
And while he's doing that, we keep cutting back to Jason and Nicole about to be eaten by the stuff. It's just such a weird, like,
The pace of it at this point.
It's bizarre. You do have moments in this movie where the dialogue is very on the nose and seems a bit out of place. We have another moment like that with Jason and Colonel Spears where he's like, we've never lost a war, and Jason's like, what about Nam?
Nom.
Yeah, what? What do you mean? It's
That
just
was the
like,
one moment I loved Jason. I was like, good for you.
What about Nam, sir? I was like, whoa, what's going on?
Mad.
Well, no, up until that point, no one is checking this colonel. And I'm like, are we not all understanding that this is some, like, renegade in the woods guy with an army?
Crazy person.
This man is absolutely nuts.
He is nuts. But I do love when they all get out of the cabs when they're driving to the radio station. I do love his line where he's like, pay the drivers a 10% tip and cash receipts. Like, and he's like telling all of his army people. I'm like, oh, at least you paid him and gave him a tip.
It's so good, but it's one of these moments, like Roshane was saying, where the tone just shifts and you're like, what am I watching now? It's crazy. We get Chocolate Chip Charlie turns back up at the radio station because he wants to speak to the nation about what's happened to his company and how he's been sort of overthrown. And this is the most famous bit. This is the bit in all the GIFs, and this is what a lot of people think of when they think of the stuff, is his demise. I mean, it's so ridiculous and cartoon and Beetlejuice sort of the stretched mouth, but I absolutely love it.
It's great.
What did you think, Roshane?
I honestly agree. It was the best version of the stuff killing somebody throughout the whole film for sure.
Yeah.
Just because it was so long. Like we collectively watched the stuff move from his bowels all the way up through to his mouth. And then we don't even really get to see what happens. We just get to see the aftermath of him in a pool of the stuff with, I guess, like a severed hand and like half his head or something like that. I don't know. I loved it. I'm not even gonna try and like deep dive it even more. It's just it's fun. I like it a lot.
I just think it's great. But then, so then they're trapped, aren't they? That's
Yes.
Jason and Nicole. They're trapped in there, and
Jason's
this is when
in there for no reason, by the
yes,
way. Why
yeah,
did he
I
go
wondered.
in there?
He causes so much more trouble.
Yeah, so much havoc. Everywhere he goes, like, this causes so much destruction in his wake.
And also, well, we don't really find out, but his parents and his family, do they have any of themselves left, I wonder, people, once they've become the stuff? Because he's just a kid away with the two strange adults who he doesn't know.
No, I'm pretty sure they're dead.
He doesn't, whatever happened to them, he doesn't seem to care. He seems very fine and fit in his new makeshift family
Yeah.
Oh,
of
yeah.
Mo and Nicole.
He's thriving with them. It's hard to tell if he even really liked his family, like, before they were the stuffed. It's hard to tell
he
if
seemed
really
like an outcast
cared.
anyway.
Yeah.
Within that family, true. But Mo electrocutes the with two handy, massive wires, high voltage, electrocutes the stuff and sets it on fire. And they make their big radio broadcast. And then it shifts again, and we've got Nicole like addressing the camera, which I really liked. It was almost a breaking the fourth wall moment. And we see that the nation has just listened to this one broadcast, because that's all it took, apparently. One broadcast, and everyone was like, oh, well, I'm going to go and get this stuff out of my fridge and burn it.
Now, my quick question, is this the first time that we're learning that it was on a like nationwide scale? Because that's one thing that confused me throughout this entire movie is how much of the nation had the stuff. Because I feel like we're presented with like 2 towns that have the stuff, but then people reference it like it's the biggest American craze at the time. I wasn't sure.
I think it is meant to be like Coca-Cola style, widespread, everyone absolutely obsessed with this new product. So
Okay.
I do think it is that.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's why I think they try and allude to it with the idea of like, oh, the ice cream companies are going out of business and like Chocolate Chip Charlie can't hold his business and stuff, is that it's like spreading throughout all these states. And I know there's a point too where Mo is like, oh, we need to get to a big city where they're not like so in control. So I think it's just quickly taken over smaller cities, but it's available everywhere. But something that is interesting to me is during this broadcast when Nicole is explaining what happened, she says that they only casualties were only in the thousands, which seems very low considering what was going on, because they make it seem like anybody who was fully controlled, such as Jason's family, died, because at the end we find out that Jason lost his entire family, right?
And we see so many people just in this small town that perish from it. Yeah.
And I was like,
But we also do see them
count on that.
We also see them come back though, right? Because post office guy gets vacated and then is still alive. That's what confused me. Is I wasn't sure when you were fully dead.
That's true.
But I don't know if the movie cared as much as maybe I did.
I wonder if they just killed people who were fully like taken over.
Yeah, I suppose maybe that's the only way, because then they're just zombie vessels, basically.
Right.
Yeah, I guess so. But we get our, I do enjoy this ending, when we're back at the, it's the distributor guy. And also, I didn't immediately recognize, he's like, oh, you're in cahoots. And I'm like, who is this other guy? But is it the ice cream guy from the beginning?
From the boat.
Yeah, right. And so they're now, they're making a new product called The Taste.
which much worse name. You
But it only
guys
has a
need
small-
to run through that.
But it only has a small amount of the stuff in
Yeah,
it, not enough
like
to take over the
15
mind.
15% or something of the
Right.
stuff, and then the rest is dairy products or something.
Classic.
Like, all right. What is? I mean, I guess I think it's I do like that they dabble with the idea of like, oh well, we're gonna take this bad thing and just rebrand it and make it seem like
Yes.
we've improved, because I do think that is where
Totally what
realistically where the world would go. We would just say,
Totally.
oh well, there's less of the bad thing, but it still tastes just as good. So I do love that they played with that
Totally.
element of it.
Mhm,
And it's
very
and
believable.
this must be absolutely harkening back to that whole having cocaine in Coke originally, you know, but it's only just microdosing, you know. But yeah. But then we got Jason, and he's now this badass kid. I don't know what has happened to him, but he comes in with a ton of cartons of stuff because they've recovered some of the stuff because we've seen the factory explode, and they just make him eat it at gunpoint.
Yeah, it was like
Yes.
Mo pulls a gun on them just cause.
Just because he can. Yeah, Jason busts in like the Terminator, and he's like, eat it! And he is yelling at them and putting piles and piles of stuff in front of them. And they just watch them eat a bunch of the stuff, and I guess allow them to get addicted to it, but then also call the hospital. It seems like the ambulance is coming at the end, but I'm in my head,
Right.
what's the point? Because haven't they eaten enough that they probably aren't going to be able to be saved? I don't know what their
Yeah.
end game is with what Jason and Mo were thinking with this. I'm not
I feel like Mo just wanted to drop that line, which still hit strange for me. The "Are you eating it or is it eating you?"
Yeah.
I was like,
I think that's the purpose of that scene, so we can get that in.
I was like, cool line, bro, but there are bigger things to deal with right now. Like these
Yeah.
men are dying in front of you, which
And
you
also,
shouldn't do that.
and also raising a gun at them. I'm sure you can be up for a litany of charges for that. That doesn't seem very legal.
Mo seems above the law. I don't
Yeah,
think the
true.
law can touch Mo. Mo does whatever he wants, apparently.
Apparently, he must still have friends in the FBI who'd be willing to go out on a limb for him. But
sure.
yeah, they watch them eat themselves into oblivion, basically. Jason's loving it. Jason's going to grow up to be a psychopath.
Totally.
But yeah, and then it cuts to basically like a black market
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. The stuff is like crack now
Yeah.
in the back streets. I like that though. It's clever. It's a nice little moment. Yeah, and that's what it's turned into. That, you know, the stuff's this illegal rare substance that they're now selling in the black market, and that's it. That's the stuff. I think it is so much fun. What, after talking about it now, what are your thoughts on it? Would you recommend it? Because I love it. Because I don't know your taste in horror. I know, Erika, you do like your sort of 80s trash. For you, Roshane.
Honestly, here's the thing, right? Is this movie makes no sense. It really doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. But it was so much fun.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but like continue to watch it. I don't necessarily know if I'll ever watch this movie again, but I'm very glad that I watched it at least once. So if nothing else, I would recommend it for one-time watch. You're looking for something fun, you should definitely watch this film. Maybe preferably with friends too, so you guys can all kind of make fun of it too while you're watching it. It's just got so many moments that even talking about, it doesn't quite do it justice. You really have to see it on screen and see kind of the craziness of it to really, I think, digest how ridiculous but charming this movie kind of is.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it more than last time I saw it. I was pretty young. It was quite a while ago, and so I remember being a little bit bored about all the sort of office meetings and stuff like that. I wanted the stuff, you know, I wanted it to be like The Blob 88, that sort of thing. Yeah, I loved it, and I'm so glad I got you guys on to talk about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I loved talking about this movie. And yeah, like you said, I love 80s I love 80s horror in general just because I think it's really, really fun. But particularly movies like this where it's just nonsense, but it still has enough horror elements where, you know, because this movie does have really, really fun moments. And the stuff in itself is an interesting concept. But yeah, these scenes are just make no sense. The lines make no sense. You can tell a lot of it they allowed them to kind of just improv their way through. Totally. But it's just so funny. I didn't remember how funny it was, and I agree with you. I think it's because now rewatching it now that I'm a little bit older, even those scenes where they're just talking, the things that they say and the reactions that they have make no sense to the circumstances, and it's so funny. Yeah.
So true. So true. And the honestly, the jokes aside, the commentary that they tried to make about the consumer industry was actually fairly solid. I think all things considering, like the little jabs that they were putting in, the references to the commercials, the Coca-Cola stuff, all that stuff was actually really good despite how wacky the movie itself was, which I do appreciate. I appreciate that it was able to have a message despite everything.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Larry Cohen always has that. There's always some theme he's putting across and a message he's putting across, but it never seems too sort of oversaturated with it or force feeding you. It's not too in your face. It's just nicely peppered. But guys, thank you so much for that. Please tell the people at home where they can find you.
Yes.
I don't mean don't give your home addresses. I mean, online.
So yeah, we are Homies of Horror. That is our name on all of our social media as well. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We have new episodes come out every Monday, and we're on all of the podcasting apps. And then we also have a Twitch channel that we do every Monday night. We play spooky video games usually. So yeah, you can find us on there if you guys are so inclined to come and watch some gaming stuff. Roshane, would you like to hit them with
that's we stream on Mondays, like she said. We play spooky games. We also do a little bit of like live commentary on some like extra movie stuff that we don't get to during our episodes too. So we do get to have some fun and talk about more horror stuff on there. But that is on my Twitch channel, which is Nerdy Millennial, just twitch.tv/Nerdy Millennial. But the link to that's in all of our social media stuff. So if you find Homies of Horror, you will also find the link to our Twitch channel as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. It's honestly been such a blast. And I took a punt and hoped that sent this message to you, and then within 2 weeks here you are recording. So I'm so grateful. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a really good time.
Thank you, guys. Toodles. Enough is never enough of the stuff. Thank you so much to Erika and Roshane for joining me to discuss one of my favourite B movies. And do make sure you check out their podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts, because it is delightful. Keep your eyes on Brainrot's Twitter account, and I'll be announcing the lineup for the next few episodes over the next couple of days. On Twitter, it's Stevie's Brainrot. On Letterboxd, it's also Stevie's Brainrot. On Instagram and Facebook, we are Brainrot Pod. On Facebook, you'll also find the Brainrot discussion group, where you can meet fellow rotters and discuss your favourite good bad movies. And if you'd like access to a host of regular bonus episodes, just head to patreon.com/Stevie's Brainrot. Until next week, rotters, toodles.